Hi everybody, I'm Lee, and this is our very first episode of Let's Fix Traffic. Now our first city was sent to me on Steam by FezVrasta. Thanks so much, I really appreciate it. I hope I'm saying your name right. Now their city is called Las Vegas and it has about 73,000 cims. Its major problem is downtown traffic, but industrial traffic is pretty bad too. Now, I've spent several hours just playing with Las Vegas, and I've seen that there's so many great lessons to learn here. So this is going to be part one of at least a 3, maybe 4-part series. In part one, we'll take a look at the good and the bad of Las Vegas and fix the easiest problems with the downtown traffic. In part two, we're going to focus on fixing the rail system and industrial traffic. In part 3 and potential part 4, we will focus on public transportation and some city layout problems I've seen with Las Vegas. Now let's take a look at the good and the bad here, starting with the good, because a lot of things were done right that are going to make it easier to fix Las Vegas. Now this series is going to be a lot like my More Money Less Traffic series, except we'll be applying what we learned to an existing city. Now, I've experimented a lot with the format of this, so let me know what you like and what you don't like. So let's take a look at what's working for Las Vegas. For starters, we have a lot of density. If we look at our zoning map, we see a lot of deep blues over here and deep greens, as well as some office zones all throughout the city. We don't have a whole lot of low density. And high density is going to be great because as we go with heavy-duty infrastructure like metros, that means we'll have plenty of cims to take advantage of them, and it won't be as big of a financial drain as a result. If we take a look at our levels map, then we can see that another thing that is working for Las Vegas is that the zoning pattern is very mixed. We do have large swaths of residential, high-density residential, but we also have high-density commercial and office buildings sprinkled all around the city. That's very good for traffic because that means that cims can actually walk to work. Like, for example, in this neighborhood, we have high-density residential. These people could walk over here to shop. They could walk down here and go to the office for work. They even have a park down here that they can take advantage of, all within walking distance. We will definitely take a more detailed look at walkability in part 3, but let it suffice to say that it's good to have a variety of different zone types in such a small area. We don't want to have big monocultures where we have all the commercial in one area, all the offices are down here, and all the residential is up here. Because what ends up happening is when these cims go to work, they all have to go through the commercial area to get there, and they all want to pile into the same office buildings. And a lot of times they want to use the same roads to do it. And that is a very bad for traffic, obviously, especially since we've made them go so far to go to work. They're all going to have to drive if we don't give them good public transportation. So we can see where having a zoning pattern that is more mixed is always going to be beneficial. Now, our third thing that we can see in favor for Las Vegas is we have a lot of land value. 52 per square meter is very good. In some of our neighborhoods, I would say that over 70, you're getting into high dollar territory. By the time you get into the 80s and 90s, you're really doing well on land value. And we've got 2 neighborhoods here that are showing up in the 80s. So I would say that's a very good thing because as we make changes to Las Vegas, we oftentimes, with a city, we can lose money. It's going to cost us money to build roads, and it may also cost us money in income because we might have to take away some of the zoning. But since we've got a good nest egg and we also have a good income, then we don't have to worry too much about what we lose as we make changes to Las Vegas. Our fourth part, we take a look at the traffic map. This is where we start to get into, we'll get into the bad in a second here. If we look at our traffic map, we see we have a highway that runs all the way around our city. We don't have anything that runs through our city except for maybe this one little stretch that takes us into a roundabout that's just a little bit more central. That's good that we don't have a highway running through our downtown area because as we do things like that, the sims just cannot resist using the highway, even if it's just for a short distance. The sims will always take the shortest route time-wise, and freeways, highways, are the fastest road on the map. And usually they're so much faster that all the sims want to get on them at the same time, and they all want to get off at the same place. It causes all sorts of traffic jams when we run that through a high-density area like we have here. Now, this is the part where we get into the bad. Our industrial area, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. We have a huge swath, a couple of giant blobs of industrial area, and that is not something I recommend. Normally, what I would say to do with industry when you zone it, the zoning pattern is, I've done a lot of experimentation. It's really hard to make a blob, even this size of a blob, work. I did that in one of my first cities, and I ended up downsizing it because it made so much more sense to just move the industry so that I was spread around the highway a little more, maybe even spread in different parts of the city. You want to have good highway or good rail access for an industrial zone. And this is all, basically just chalked into this single area. And it's just overwhelming. Our traffic facilities, our infrastructure is very highly red over here. One of the problems we're having here too is that we have some very incomplete interchanges. We do have a complete interchange here where these two highways meet. That's good. But this over here is not very complete. For starters, we have only one ramp that gets you into this neighborhood, and it's only in this westbound direction. And then we only have one ramp that gets back on, and it doesn't even go back where we came. It gets on in the eastbound direction. So what that is causing is, for all of our trucks that are coming from the eastbound direction, they all want to go into this neighborhood. They're coming all the way over here into our city and around these roundabouts. And of course, the roundabouts are overwhelmed, and nobody can get on the roundabouts because there's so much truck traffic coming on through there, just trying to turn around. So we want to make sure that we have a shorter route for our trucks to travel. That will make this work a lot more efficiently. But part two is where we're actually really going to tackle some of the problems that we have. Our rail system is completely gridlocked. We could follow that. It goes all the way to the edge of the map. It's really pretty incredible how dysfunctional the rail system is. And it's only because of a couple of bottlenecks. But a lot of goods aren't making it through. And that's especially true over here in this neighborhood. We have a ramp that gets in from the port. We have another ramp that's only in one direction that gets on into this district. So we have all of this ore. We have a bit of agriculture here, and then we've got this generic industry and Turpex over here. And the problem that we have is that there's absolutely no way out of this neighborhood. There's a street that goes through here, but it dead ends over here. So there's all this highway, and there's no way to get to it. So we're going to tackle that in part two of our series here, because this is just a huge change that we need to make this whole thing work much better. And I'm going to show you a few things with the rail system using Traffic Manager President Edition that's going to help us make that better. Now, another thing too we see is a lot of trains waiting around in our metro tunnels. That gets even worse if we go over here to the other side of the lake. We have one station especially that is really overwhelmed. There are trains constantly waiting to get in here, and we have a bunch of sims that are just waiting for a train that's probably just stuck in a tunnel in a lot of cases, waiting to get into the station. So in part three, we will deal with the metro system and help unlock that. Now, as far as what we're going to do in part one, we have a city in their downtown area. We've got lots of big skyscrapers. So demolition is something that's really going to be costly. It's going to take away a lot of jobs, a lot of housing, even just to take down one of these towers. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't mean much, but as it adds up, it really means a lot. Now, right now, a lot of this is abandoned, and the biggest reason why is because of this icon right here. Not enough goods to sell. That's because our industrial delivery trucks cannot make it to our commercial zones. We've got a huge bunch of commercial zones. If we take a look right here, well, that's all commercial right there. And a lot of these are abandoning, and it's because there's no goods to sell, or because dead people can't be picked up by our death care workers. Here's another one, no goods to sell. And again, no goods to sell. And I really feel like that's because of our industrial traffic. If our industrial traffic was able to get out of its neighborhood, then these people over here would be able to order, and these people would be able to take the order and deliver on it. Right now, they can take the order, but they can't deliver because they have no way out of their neighborhood to get it to the commercial zones, no matter how much they try. So a lot of commercial zones just abandoned as a result of that. The other problem that we have is a lot of long blocks. Some of these are almost 70 units long. That's 70 squares. And that doesn't give very many opportunities for the Sims to turn around. It doesn't give as many roads for the Sims to be able to drive on as alternate routes. We also have a lot of really incomplete parts of the grid. We've got a lot of dead-end streets, got a lot of snaking streets that just go and dead end after a long distance, and you can see that that is causing traffic backups over here, partly because they can't get on the roundabout because of all the trucks, but also over here we even see, some of these, there is more than one way out, but they all want to go to the same place, and they could probably take some of these other streets, but they can't get there. So we're going to deal with some of that, fixing some of this grid in order to make it more effective and more complete in part 3. But for now, I want to address a couple of things in part 1. First off, we have a lot of trouble with the roundabouts. We're going to take care of that after we get a way set up for the trucks to go around here. I would love to build a little loop turnaround up here, but I really don't see the real estate, and I don't want to do a whole lot of multi-level and reworking of this because we're going to tackle that in part 2. So temporarily right now, I'm going to revamp this just a little bit. I'm going to put a little connector in here so that trucks who want to go and turn around don't have to go all the way in through this toll plaza and then the roundabout, or all the way over here through this roundabout and get stuck in traffic. They could just go around and keep on going, and then we end up freeing up our roundabout. So I'm going to do that in this video, and then after that we're going to tackle configuring the roundabouts to make them effective. We'll be using Traffic Manager President Edition to do that because that is a mod that our city builder was already using, and I've added a few more that are going to help me to take care of some of these problems faster, but they're not essential after I'm done to have installed for the city to be able to work. Except for maybe one of those, and I'll get into that later on here. We're also going to deal with taking a look at our junctions and making sure that those are set up right, the ones that are not roundabouts, wherever we see a trouble spot here in the city. We're going to get this down. I think we can pretty easily get another 10 points over being in the mid-60s by just doing those few little fixes, and that'll get downtown moving once again. And then in part 2, we'll take care of our industrial traffic. So I'm going to go ahead and get started right here by working out this interchange. Now, I'm using a couple of mods. One is Network Extensions 2. That gives me a 2-lane highway like I have right here. I also have the Mass Transit DLC installed, and that gives you a 2-lane highway that is more vanilla. So if you're playing vanilla and you want to have a 2-lane highway, they also have a 4-lane highway, which we might put to work here too. That comes with Mass Transit as well as Network Extensions 2. Then, if you're on console, Mass Transit DLC comes with one of the packages on consoles. Otherwise, you can just use the mod Network Extensions 2 to get access to a lot of these features. So I'm going to start by building a curved road right here. Now, I want to get a good angle here that's under 45 degrees. It looks like I've got it right here at... Oh, no, it doesn't want to work with me. I've got, okay, 42.1. That's a good angle right there. So I'm going to go with that. And then I want to have another under 45 degree angle right here. Now let's go in the wrong way. So let me reverse that. And then I need to just change these ramps up so that they are the proper size and lanes. So it seems our trucks have discovered this new shortcut, and they're starting to overwhelm this area right here. We've already got a backup that goes back to the last ramp, which is actually pretty far away. So I'm going to use the lane connector in Traffic Manager President Edition to assign these trucks to lanes. Now I think there's a lot of traffic on both of these highways coming through here, so I'm going to use my 4-lane road from Network Extensions 2. And I'm just going to widen this part of the road so that each lane will be dedicated. Now this is the only way to make this work, because otherwise trucks will just cross right over into whatever lane they want at these junctions, and they'll do the same thing right here. You might even see one try to slide through. Even though the lane arrows are set, they don't usually want to listen to those, so I'm just going to go right on backwards and organize this a little bit more. Yeah, right here you can get a good example of how they just pick whatever lane they want, and it jams things up. So as you can see, we've already made a huge improvement on traffic flow through here. There's no backups over here. There is a little bit of a slow spot right here, but I think as the trucks filter through here and merge on into traffic, I think that will clear. So we'll check on that in a bit later. But right now, I'd say it's safe to, let's see here. I think we're safe from having all those trucks trying to turn around on those roundabouts in our city. So we've got some delivery trucks that are trying to come back. We've got some public transport cargo vehicles coming through here. But for the most part, everybody's found this ramp, and they're just going to go right on through it. So that is definitely going to help traffic. It's already starting to clear up there a little bit. Now let's take a look at roundabouts in the city of Las Vegas, which has several, as you can see, along the edges of my screen here. Now we have lots of vehicles getting backed up trying to enter these roundabouts. For example, we have a backup right here that maybe we'll get lucky and that will clear as this empties out a little bit more. But this line here is honestly so bad that it's backing up to the next roundabout. This one down here is cascading onto side streets quite a ways away, and we've got a couple of trouble spots over here. So this often indicates that our roundabouts are perhaps not set up to optimally handle the volume of traffic that we're seeing. Now, vanilla city Skylines doesn't offer much in the way of tools to make roundabouts more effective, but a mod does. Traffic Manager President Edition. Traffic Manager President Edition by far makes City Skylines a much more playable game. It's gotta be my favorite mod. Now we're going to use several of its features here to optimize our roundabouts in Las Vegas. We're going to start over here with this large roundabout and just zoom in on this intersection. And we're going to start off with priority signs. If we click on the Traffic Manager President Edition icon, priority signs are over here in the bottom left corner. Now we have 3 different types of priority signs that we can set for each road entering a junction. And the first one is the gold diamond. which is a gold caution diamond or a gold priority diamond, however you want to look at it. That allows traffic coming from this direction to enter this intersection without having to stop. Then we have the yield sign, or this red and white triangle, which allows cims to enter without stopping if traffic is clear. If traffic is not clear, then they just stop, like the cims right here just did. The third option is a stop sign, and that forces traffic in this direction to stop at this crosswalk before entering the intersection. Now, hopefully the cims stop and only enter when there's nothing coming, but sometimes the cims don't make the best decisions on that, as you can see right here. For a roundabout, we want to have a gold diamond to give priority for all the traffic that is on the roundabout already. And then we want a yield sign for traffic that is entering the roundabout. Why is this? Well, this prevents traffic entering the roundabout from blocking traffic already on the roundabout. If traffic already on the roundabout can't exit, then the entire roundabout can get gridlocked. This is especially important for heavy traffic areas and for smaller roundabouts. And I just want to make a comment about roundabout size, especially in city skylines. More intersections on a roundabout means you need a larger radius. Heavier traffic, and especially truck traffic, requires a larger radius on a roundabout. And the biggest reason for that is a lot of times lane changes. If we go to our road tool with our guidelines turned on, with our road guidelines turned on right here, we see these blue circles. These are nodes where cims are able to change lanes. They can't change lanes in between. They have to do it at a node. Oftentimes that is an intersection on a roundabout. So smaller roundabout actually means less lane changes and less flexibility for the roundabout. It also makes it harder for semi-trucks like these to be able to navigate because they're large, long vehicles. So heavy traffic and large number of intersections in a roundabout requires a larger radius so that traffic can make its way through without clogging up. Next, we will consider junction restrictions, going back to Traffic Manager. That's this black cross icon right here, or X icon. And we're going to zoom back in on this intersection. And we see several options at this junction. We're only going to look at a couple of them. This direction of the road does not have any traffic, any vehicular traffic coming, but it does have this pedestrian crossing. So this icon here allows us to click and disable pedestrians crossing or enable them. Then we also have the icon here that allows vehicles to either enter this junction and block it, or we can disallow them from getting into this junction and blocking it. For a roundabout, especially this roundabout in particular, we don't have anything in the center of this, and a lot of times you don't really want to have anything especially popular in the center unless you're going to maybe build a pedestrian bridge to get pedestrians into the center of the roundabout, which we could easily do at a roundabout this size with the extra real estate around that we have. But in this case, we really don't want pedestrians crossing into the center of the roundabout, so we're going to prohibit that movement. And then the other thing we want for roundabouts is we want all the traffic that's on the roundabout to be able to enter and block each junction. For traffic that is entering the roundabout and not already on it, then we need to leave this alone and make sure that we are not allowing this traffic to block the roundabout. Because if there's a lot of heavy traffic, we can end up with cims trying to come over here, they get stuck, and then these cims cannot get over into the right lane, and that causes a traffic backup in the roundabout and eventually to the entire city grid. So we have to be careful about allowing traffic to block a junction. We want that for traffic in the roundabout so that they can exit promptly, but we don't want entering traffic to get on and prevent them from getting where they need to go. Our last consideration at each junction on a roundabout is going to be your lane arrows, and that's with this icon right here. What this allows us to do is dedicate lanes on the roundabout so that we don't have anybody who's trying to make a right turn right here holding up somebody behind them who just wants to stay on the roundabout. So we're going to set that so that we have 2 dedicated right turn lanes that will go down on this 4-lane avenue right here. And then we've got 4 more, which is more than enough for Sims to stay on the roundabout. And a final word about junctions on roundabouts. We want to make sure that we have good angles for our Sims to use. These 2 junctions are good. They're at 90-degree angles to the roundabout. This one over here can be problematic because our Sims really have to slow down to make that right turn. Meanwhile, these ones, they can just zip right on if they want to because the angle is a lot milder. It's important for Sims to getting on roundabouts to have, fairly reasonable turn angles so that they don't get hung up and cause more traffic jams or just slower traffic. Now, so 90 degrees is usually good for 2-way streets. Now for highways like we have here entering this roundabout, or for 1-way streets, we can actually make it a little simpler, a little faster for our Sims to get through these junctions by making sure that they're 45-degree or less turns for our Sims. Or actually, I think it'd be more like a 135-degree movement. So basically what that does is it allows our Sims to go through an intersection without having to slow down, which is something that we want them to be able to do as they come off of these 1-way streets or go on to them. So I'm going to use the Move It mod over here, and I'm going to make this a little more favorable angle. If we look at this, this is probably about a probably close to a 45-degree angle, but we can soften it just a tad, like so. So our Sims can just go right on and they don't have to slow down, except for that this slows down from 100 kilometers per hour to 60 probably on this roundabout. Now over here it's even more important because this is not a good angle at all. This is almost 90 degrees right here. So we're going to just move this right over here and make that a really soft angle. That should be about a 45-degree angle right there. So our Sims will be able to go right onto that ramp without slowing down at all. So now I just need to set up my priority signs, junction restrictions, and lane arrows here on the rest of this roundabout. Okay, so over here where we have the highway entrance and exit for our roundabout, we do not have anything on this whole side of the roundabout. There's absolutely no development, and there's no reason why pedestrians would need to walk along the highway. Therefore, we are going to go ahead and prevent pedestrians from crossing over here because it'll just help traffic flow that much more go on through here without having to slow down. Now we'll proceed on to this next roundabout, and it looks like we have a problem here with this one. It looks like anarchy was used right here, and this is creating, with a little stub of a road probably that's got left behind, it's causing everything to slow down right here as it navigates through this junction. There's also some other issues that I want to solve, like having to do with this train station. So I'm actually going to pause the game and make some changes, rebuild this part of the roundabout. Okay, so now we have our roundabout set up. We've configured our priority signs, we've configured our junction restrictions, and our lane arrows so that traffic will move more optimally through this roundabout. I also made a couple of changes here to the way the streets are configured. I connected this street right here straight into the roundabout, so now traffic that wants to go to and from the rail station can get to the roundabout directly. That means that I really don't need anybody being able to turn left here because they can just go down to the roundabout. I also don't need anybody to turn left here because if they want to, they can go all the way around the roundabout and turn right. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those with my lane arrows here. I don't want a left turn there. I don't want a left turn there. Also, since we've done that, I can allow people from either direction to go ahead and block that junction, which will make traffic flow a little more efficient. Now, the last thing I want to point out is we have very, very close pedestrian crossings. Sort of makes this one irrelevant, so I'm going to go ahead and ban pedestrian crossings there since that's so close together. And then one last consideration is I really don't want people getting in the way of trucks coming out of that cargo terminal up here. I don't want them getting hung up by people trying to make right turns here. So I'm going to take this a step further and make that little section a one-way street. So this makes it so that anybody can turn from here onto this one-way street, and then anybody trying to get off of it just has to go through the roundabout to go where they want to go. So that roundabout is configured much better. One last consideration we might have is this junction here. We've got trucks trying to turn left here, and it's holding up traffic in the other direction. If they wanted to turn left there, they could just go around the roundabout and come up and then turn left, or they could even just take a right and go up the street and go around the block. I think I like that better. I also don't want anything coming off of this street and then going straight through this intersection. So I'm going to go ahead and change my lane arrows to prohibit left turns here and prohibit straight throughs right here. So everything has to turn right and everything has to turn right, and then these people from this direction can either turn left or go straight through. That will allow me to set my junction restrictions to allow people to block this intersection and keep things flowing. I can also get rid of that pedestrian crossing because I don't really feel like it's that important to be able to go through there with one so close in the roundabout here. I think I might just take away this crossing as no. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get rid of that crossing because we've got one right there. So the people who want to go across the street, they can just go around there to get to these buildings, or they can go around over here on the roundabout. So that should take care of that intersection. Now let me go ahead and look at the others. Again, this intersection is very close, so I'm going to stop left turns here, and that will allow me to set my junction restrictions to allow cars to go ahead and block this intersection. This intersection here is awfully close to both roundabouts where I have crosswalks, so I'm going to prohibit pedestrian crossings here, and I'm going to allow blocking of the junction, and I'm going to set my lane arrows so that there aren't any left turns here. It looks like our city builder already took care of that one, so we're going to take care of that one there, so everything will just go straight through here. Now, something that we're taking advantage of here are pedestrian bridges. The only place that pedestrians really would want to go are between these bus stops and this metro station and this street where we've got some development. Otherwise, the only thing we really have over here is this incinerator. So I'm going to go ahead and block that off so that we do not have any pedestrians going ahead and crossing any of this circle. So in some cases, we have the inability to use the lane arrow changer because it says we have created lane connections by hand. What does this mean? Well, this means that the lane connector was most likely used, and that's this tool right here that has the two dots and the little squiggle line right there. With a lane connector, we can by hand set where each lane is allowed to go. That can be a dangerous thing at times because in this particular case, these people are actually forced to make a right turn into this lane and then make another right turn out on that street. They're not allowed to get into the other lane and get to the highway. So we can use the lane connector and connect that lane up so that now cims will be able to go ahead and get on the highway at will. Now the other problem we have is that this street is forced to get on the highway, so we need access to both lanes there, and this is forced to into both lanes, so that's fixed. Then we can change this to stay on the roundabout and configure this to go to all three lanes on the highway. We don't really need to worry about lanes here, but I wanted to show you how lane connector can actually be a disadvantage. Lane arrows are safer. Lane connectors can oftentimes cause more problems if you don't know what you're doing or you just didn't think it all through. I've made mistakes plenty of times myself, even in the recent past, so just be careful with the lane connectors or you can make it so cims can't get where they want to go. Now, I've restricted pedestrian crossings at all intersections out here on this roundabout because there's absolutely nothing in the neighborhood. That can be revisited if the city builder expands out here and then something happens to be on the other side of the roundabout, or we can use pedestrian bridges. Now the lane connector was used here again. I have to correct this so that everything is accessible. And we can take a look at this. And I really feel like this roundabout in this neighborhood is actually a really wasted opportunity. If we look, we have a couple of very busy streets right here that are all trying to pile into this neighborhood, and probably over here too. And this roundabout doesn't really directly connect to either one of them. Right here we've got a little better connection, but we don't have any connection at all to this street unless you go all the way around through those other two roundabouts to get there. So I'm going to do a little bit of demolition here just to make this a more direct connection. I'm going to move this school, and that's probably going to take this building right here, and I'm going to take that office building as well in order to connect this roundabout, which I'm going to rebuild just so it's a little more circular shaped. And I'm going to connect it here, here. I'm going to make sure this road is connected and that road. and that should take care of everybody in a much more direct fashion. They won't have to go around through all these intersections to get there, and they'll have the option of using this road instead of this one. Give me a second. Now, a third mod that I'm going to introduce right here is called Precision Engineering. And Precision Engineering is helping me to get the exact angle, or at least a more precise angle, out of each of my nodes when I'm going to lay them down. For example, right here we see that the game only wants to tell us it's 37 degrees. Meanwhile, Precision Engineering tells me that it's 36.9 degrees and not an exact 37. That can be useful at times, especially if you're trying to get a perfect 90-degree angle somewhere and you can't just use the vanilla tools that make it easy to do 90-degree angles sometimes. The other thing it does is it allows me to see how long, without having to count squares, a road is going to be before I lay it down. So right here I've got 10 units roughly, and I can move that over and have a 13 by 7 unit, a 13 and a 7 unit lines that I'm building my arc along. That's really handy. In this case, I don't have the guidelines that come with a vanilla game coming in, so with Precision Engineering I can hold down the Alt key and it will automatically, once I get close, line me up with any straight lines like these ones right here. It doesn't always work perfectly for curved lines, but it does for straight ones. So now I can click and I can get a 90-degree angle that's perfect right there for my roundabout. And I'm going to do this here is not going to work out, so I'm going to just do that. Pro tip, if you want to create your priority sign automatically, you can just double click and get a yield sign on your side street, entering the roundabout, and then you can automatically get a gold diamond, which saves you a little bit of extra clicking. Alright, so I have set up my roundabout here. Just have to set the lane arrows and then we're good to go. And I've restricted pedestrian crossings all the way around this. I don't know if it really mattered that much to do that here because these are all highway segments anyway. So no, I don't think pedestrians are going to go out there in the first place. But I don't want pedestrians crossing here either because I don't want them to go around the edge of the roundabout. Instead, what I'm going to do is build a little path right here. And that'll allow pedestrians to go right across here and over to this crosswalk and on down that street without having to go through the roundabout. The other thing I don't want is, since these intersections are so close together, once again, I'm going to prevent left turns here and allow them to block that junction. Also going to take away my pedestrian crossing. No, maybe I'll leave that pedestrian crossing there since I don't have one over here. I could probably get rid of it right here though, which will make traffic flow a little bit more smoothly. That intersection there is very close, so I'm going to ban left turns here as well and allow them to block this junction. And hopefully some of that will work more effectively than what we had before. So now we have these two streets both connected directly into this roundabout. Let's see how our traffic performs in this neighborhood. So we're actually seeing pretty bad traffic through here. This is not working very well for us because we've got a lot of cars and trucks trying to turn onto the street. It looks like they're trying to make a left here. I really don't want them to make a left there because I don't know where they're going to really go. I'd rather see them either make a left here or make a left here, go to the roundabout, and then come back on the right, or something along those lines. The other thing they could do is they could turn right, go through this roundabout, and then come back and turn right. So if we just reestablish some flow by just prohibiting some left turns and allowing some blocked junctions, I think that this would flow much better. So I'm going to stop this from being a left turn, and I'm going to stop left turns here, and here, and here. Now these intersections are super close together, so I'm going to press eliminate the pedestrian crossings here. In this area right here, both of those are sort of redundant. Now let's watch and see what happens. So we still have super heavy traffic on this road, but it moves much more effectively than it did before. This neighborhood over here is a lot quieter, which is good because I think that's mostly residential over here. And this over here is a little quieter too. So we still have some traffic problems that we need to deal with, but I think you get the idea of some of the power that we have by just using roundabouts. Even the small ones, even the congested ones, we can still keep traffic moving pretty effectively just by making some left turn restrictions and changing the junction restrictions to allow blocked intersections where we don't have left turns. So now I want to move along and deal with the junction problems that we have. Now that we've had some opportunity to get our roundabouts configured, I want to see if we still have any problems elsewhere in our city and go ahead and deal with those problems. So we've got a lot of red over here. We've got a bit of red over here. Let's, that looks pretty good. This over here looks like it is backed up. I'm not exactly sure why. That looks like it's clearing out, but this is really backed up right here. So let's use my junctions tool, and we have a stop sign here. We want to change that to a traffic light, and that should clear out pretty fast once the cims are able to move freely out of there. As you can see, it's already cleared out just with that small little change. Up here, what is our problem? We have a traffic light, and I think that's actually going to clear out. Up here, we don't really want the stop sign on the main street. We want it to stop there. We have some extra traffic lights we don't need over here. And that should handle most of our problems in that neighborhood. Now, this is a matter of preference, I often will use the junctions section, the junctions tab in traffic routes, and set stop signs on all of my streets where, I want cims to stop before they go right on in. That oftentimes leads to more orderly junctions on my main street and lets those vehicles pass through a little more smoothly. I'm not going to do that with the entire city here, but I do want to get rid of traffic lights where I don't think they're going to be necessary, and just stick a stop sign in there. So that neighborhood is free flowing for the first time since we started here, and we've already gained almost we've gained over 10 points on our traffic flow, which I would say is pretty good, especially considering we still have some trouble spots right here. That's strange. They're not going very fast right there. What can I do? Stop sign. I don't want a stop sign there. The other thing I think would help, perhaps, is allowing traffic to go in both directions here. So I'm going to upgrade that to a two-way street. Our city builder was probably trying to prevent this from getting hit with left turns and overwhelming the roundabout if they turn right here. So I'm actually going to prohibit some turns here just for good traffic flow. I'm going to prohibit the left there, and I'm going to prohibit a straight through right here so that there's no conflicts. Then I'm going to allow those two directions to go ahead and block the junction since they won't be crossing over each other. So hopefully that will help clear the roundabout a little better. Now, one of my problems that I have here is I'd like to take away, especially that crossing right there. It's pretty close to this one, but just because of the geometry and the proximity to a metro station that's really busy and a bus stop that's really busy, I really hate to make the pedestrians go around and then back or around through here to get where they want to go. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, and it looks like that's cleared out really well anyway. Let's take a look at our traffic view. That's definitely functioning much better than it was before. I don't know if that'll clear out, but it's looking okay. This junction right here is a little close, and we've got an extra pedestrian crossing, so I'm going to stop pedestrians, and I'm going to allow those to block, and I'm going to stop left turns coming out right here. I don't see a lot of traffic trying to turn right here, so since this is a cul-de-sac with a lot of high-density commercial on it, I'm going to make it so that they can actually turn left or turn right here, and just hope that that doesn't get too congested right there. It seems like it's working. Now over here we have a backup forming. What's the cause of this one? Now it looks like a lot of the congestion here is because of just pure volume. We do have a little congestion going on in the roundabout here. I don't know why that is. Just the way the cims drive, I guess, is not working out. So let's check my priority signs. I thought I set those. Yes, I did. So this is not moving very smoothly. I'm not sure if it'll clear out. I don't think that it has anything to do with any of my junctions along the way here. It looks like it might actually clear too, especially now that the street is a little less busy than it was. So this is a good example of why roundabouts, especially very, very small ones like this, don't handle heavy traffic very well. Now, one of the things I could do is I have Network Extensions 2 installed, as I mentioned earlier. I could use our small heavy roads and make this a small 4-lane road right up before that. Oh, well, it's cleared. I guess I don't have to do that. But I could make a small 4-lane road right here or in here. That would give 2 lanes entering the roundabout, one that would want to stay on and go to either this or this intersection, and one that keeps right and just proceeds on over here. I don't know that that would really help a whole lot. It looks like now the volume is shifted over here, but I still think that's going to clear eventually. This is moving so much better than it was. We're still at 80% traffic flow. I really say that I think this is a success. We've accomplished quite a lot in part 1. for as many problems as this city has. Now, 81%, 82. I'd say that we've definitely made an impact on the traffic flow over here. We don't really have any spots that aren't moving anymore, but we still have a lot of indicators that show that our goods are not getting through. And I really feel like that is because of our industrial zones being either too congested to get goods out or too disconnected to get goods out. So we're going to tackle that problem in part 2, and then we're going to return to our downtown area because once we get these delivery trucks freed up, it's probably going to cause more traffic downtown, and we're going to have to deal with that too. So part 3, we're going to return to the city, and we're going to, actually one of the things we really need to do in part 3 is we need to fix this metro system so we don't have any gridlock. So we're going to fix the rails and fix industry in part 2, and fix public transportation, and just deal with the overall layout of the city and just make some small improvements that will certainly make a huge difference in traffic flow as we get our delivery trucks through and as we move our cims to our public transportation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you learned something or you think you might learn something in the next video, please subscribe. Thanks so much. So long.